I'm hoping I'm live again. I'm got a new phone. I have no idea how to use the daggone thing. So we've already done a video live, and mine didn't go live. We tried to upload it. It didn't upload. So I'm hoping that this time around, you're with us with me this time. So my name is Jen Quinn, and I am one half of the Menopausal View. If you have joined us over the last year or so, you have been along for the beginning of the journey, the fun stuff, the political stuff, the he said, she said, the she said, whatever just kind of popped into our heads. We've had conversations, hey Danny, about whatever, whatever was going on in the world. We've also had conversations about, what is that show, the one with the hats? The scary one with the hats where the women are, chattel. Anyway, long story. Anyway, so I don't know if anybody noticed, but around May, I kind of dropped off of the face of the earth as far as the Menopausal View goes. Some of you are my actual friends on Facebook and in real life and are aware of what was going on. And some of you aren't. So I wanted to kind of give you guys an explanation as to what happened. So I'm going to try and give you the Reader's Digest version. Now, you know me, Reader's Digest version isn't always, Reader's Digest. But I'm going to try really hard to give you the Reader's Digest version. So bear with me here. Okay, now I'm not sure if can you guys see this? Is it thin this way or is it long this way? Because your wording is coming this way. So I don't know if I'm upright or sideways because I'm supposed to be sideways. Can you see me upright or sideways? Can you tell? Hey, Amber, am I upright or am I sideways? I'm sideways. So I'm long, so you can see this like a widescreen TV. Okay, so back in 2015, Christmas 2015, I had the sleeve surgery done. I was actually, I had to have it done because my liver had grown into the lap band that I had. So they had to get my liver out, they had to repair a hernia, and they did my sleeve surgery. Unfortunately, some medical things happened after that surgery. I ended up in the hospital almost the entire year. I had 7 more surgeries and procedures. My house flooded twice. My best friend died. My father died. My father-in-law died that year. It was a very, very, very difficult year. So things just kept kind of domino affecting there. The last surgery I had was Christmas again, only this time it was in 2016. So 2017, I still hadn't recovered from the previous year. And by probably May of 2018, I started having seizures. In August of 2018, I had a seizure that lasted 16 days. And nobody could figure out what was happening. I kept going to the emergency room. They kept sticking all those electrodes on me, doing all these tests on me. And finally, they admitted me to do a test on me. And they decided that it was a psychological depressive reaction. And it was not a seizure, it was a pseudo seizure, and I wasn't even allowed to call it a seizure in any way. It was just an episode. The doctors that I was with told my family and myself never to take me to the emergency room again if I had these seizures, as there was nothing wrong with me. So I continued to suffer with these seizures for another year. And every time I was having them, I was blacking out, I was unable to function, and I was having up to 16, 17, 18 times a day. I had to quit my job. Well, on medical leave, extended medical leave, I couldn't bathe myself. I couldn't dress myself. I haven't been able to drive in 3 years. You know, basic human things that need to happen haven't been able to be done. In June, I went to the hospital, to the emergency room. I had a migraine, a sore throat, and a stomach ache. They sent me home with Miralax, and I knew I wasn't doing well. Well, let me rewind just a moment. Back in like when I was 17, I was diagnosed with something called Addison's disease. Addison's disease is adrenal insufficiency. And if you know anything about your adrenal glands, which most people don't, it's basically the gland that keeps you healthy. It fights your illnesses, your diseases, and it's what provides your cortisol. So every time you get excited, you use cortisol. If you get sick, you use cortisol. If you're depressed, you use cortisol. So I was really diagnosed with it back in 2013, again in 2014, again in 2015. And I had been sending messages to my endocrinologist who re-diagnosed me back in 15, I think. And she said, you know, I was telling her all the symptoms that I was having. And she kept saying, this isn't Addison's related. This isn't Addison's related. So the more I did my own investigating, which I shouldn't have to do, and probably not always the wisest thing to do, but being forearmed is, you know, forewarned. And I found something called adrenal crisis. And it was verbatim, word for word, what I was going through. So I literally copy and pasted what the diagnosis, you know, the symptoms were for adrenal crisis. I sent it to her that day that I was sent home from the hospital with Miralax. And I said, these are my symptoms. I cannot function at all. And I said, I need to come in and see you. I think that I'm in adrenal crisis. And she sent me a message back and she said, no, this doesn't seem adrenal related, but I can get you in 6 weeks if you're still feeling weird. And I was like, no, that is not, no. So I also have something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It is a hereditary thing where your connective tissue to your joints don't work. So basically, in a healthy...
Sorry, I'm having...
Sorry, my phone was scared the crap out of me. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, basically, if you're healthy, your joints and muscles and tendons and everything are like a rubber band. So you pull on them and they snap back. Okay. As you get older, your rubber band doesn't snap quite as well, you know, but people who have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it's more like their connective tissues is like taffy. So you pull on them, they don't snap back. You pull on them again, they don't snap back, but they're getting thinner and more stretched out and thinner and more stretched out. And eventually they're going to probably break. So our joints can dislocate, you know, they can subluxation. My worst one is this shoulder. It seems like it's always pulled out. It's not coming completely out of the socket, but it comes out enough that it's not in the right place. It grinds when I move it, and my rib cage kind of gets dislodged as well, and then my hips. Those are my worst places, and sometimes my knees, depending. But this is a lifelong health issues that I have to deal with. It's similar to fibromyalgia. Instead of the muscles, it's the connecting tissues. So I'm in a support group, and I was desperate. I felt like I was going to die every time I had one of these seizures, or I blacked out, or, you know, I cried every day because I thought I was going to die. I could not function. I twitched nonstop. I don't know if you guys ever noticed, if you go back to some of our older videos, I kind of lean out of the frame quite frequently because I'm twitching. Or I may leave the frame altogether because I'm about to have a seizure. I tend to be better when my excitement is up, and doing these videos with Jocelyn is my happy place. It is my happiest place. I love doing these videos with Jocelyn because it's my life. It gives me breath. It gives me love. So anyway, I went to my group for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I said, is there anybody in here who also has Addison's disease? And, because we all have other things that go with EDS. Because EDS is a rare disease, it tends to clump together with other rare diseases, and they're mostly autoimmune. So my autoimmune that I have is a biggie. Addison's, you can die. It's that simple. If you are in adrenal crisis and you go into adrenal failure, you can die within 30 minutes. Your organs start melting and you can die. So this particular day, I had gone to the hospital, and I got online, and I was in this group, and I said, please, somebody help me. I'm dying. And within moments, I was contacted by this woman who was an Addison's advocate. She was in my group, so she was familiar with not only Addison's, but also with EDS. And she contacted me. She said, Jennifer, you need to go straight back to the ER right now. And I kept saying, there's really no point, because they're just going to send me home with Marilax and tell me there's nothing wrong with me. I've been getting this for over a year. And she said, I'm going to have my endocrinologist meet you up there. I'm like, your endocrinologist doesn't know me. There's no reason for him to meet me up there. She said, Jennifer, get in the vehicle and come up here now, or I'm calling 911. And it just so happened that while I was having this conversation with her, my best friend called in, and she said, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Out of the blue, she was on her way to my house within 10 minutes. I said, oh, good, because you're taking me to the emergency room. And by the time I got to the emergency room, she was there, and she said, you're Jennifer, right? And I was like, yes. And I blacked out. If my best friend hadn't been there to give them enough pertinent information to get me into the hospital, and if she hadn't been there to take control of everything and tell them what needed to be done and so forth and so on, I wouldn't be here today. They got me back into a room very quickly after this. I didn't have to wait another 6 hours to get into the emergency room this time. And I was out of it. I was in and out of it. I heard snippets of conversation. Then this guy that looks like kind of like Vincent Price. He comes in, he's got the white hair, he's tall, he's slender. And I don't even know what it was he said. I heard adrenal failure. And I was thinking to myself, that doesn't sound good. And then another comment that I caught was if I had waited 5 more minutes, I'd be dead, kind of thing. So he wanted to admit me, but the hospital, they just put me in the hospital. I stayed in the hospital for 4 days. They would not admit me. I don't know if it was because of my insurance or if it was because of them, but I was there for 4 days. I don't remember anything that happened in those 4 days, except for this doctor kept coming back to talk to me. So I later found out that he was an endocrinologist. He was my friend, this advocate for Addison's endocrinologist. Come to find out, he's also a neurologist and a nuclear radiologist doctorate, something like that. So he's got 3 doctorates, So anyway, this is when I got a crash course on Addison's. Now, keep in mind, I'd had Addison's for 30 years. I'd never been taught anything about what that meant. I was never consistently on medications for it. I had been re-diagnosed with it 3 times in 3 years and still not been given any information on it. I had no idea that it was a life or death kind of illness. So I always thought that the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome was the worst illness I had. It turns out that was not true. So the Addison's, everything that your body goes through uses your adrenal glands. Cortisol is used every time. So basically, I was in adrenal failure. As soon as I started to, get back on steroids, understand the steroids, and get those steroids using back into my body so that I was understanding how things worked in my body, I was starting to feel a little bit better, and then I got a urinary tract infection. I have no immune system because I also have hypogammaglobulinemia. I have immunodeficiency disorders, as well as the adrenal. So basically, everything that fights infection doesn't work for me. So I had a UTI. They gave me 3 days of antibiotics, and within 5 days, I was back in the ER. I was in the hospital. Once again, I had a UTI, and I had to keep getting up to go to the bathroom. And each time I got up to go to the bathroom, it was harder for me to get back up. And by the end of it, I was on the toilet to pee, and I couldn't get back up. And I told my mom, I said, it's okay. I love you. Tell Sean I love him, but I'm not going to make it. I'm dying, and I don't even know why, but I can't move. I have no strength. My brain's not working, and I'm dying. I was, as a matter of fact, I had something called pseudomonas. There's another word to it. It's a kind of blood disorder, a blood infection. So I was in septic shock, and I blacked out. And I honestly don't know how long I was there. I don't remember much of what happened while I was there, which tends to be pretty common when you have septic shock. So I was in the hospital, I think, for 2 weeks. Don't quote me on that. I came home, and I'm like, okay, round 2, I'm there. And I'm like, boy, this has kind of been, at least now they're figuring out what's happening to me instead of saying that it's, psychosomatic. So finally, round 2 was over. I was starting to slowly get back to normal.
My apologies.
Anyway, so I don't know why that keeps doing that. Sorry. So then round 3, I called my PCP, and I told her that I was not feeling well, that I was having an immense amount of trouble breathing. And I told her that I was incredibly weak. It still could have been from the sepsis. I was very weak, especially my right leg. I couldn't lift it at all. And I'd been suffering from Charlie horses, nonstop Charlie horses in my legs for over a year. It was also part of the seizures. So I guess the breathing thing and the chest pain kind of gave it a new meaning. So I went back to the emergency room per my doctor's orders, and they discovered that I had a blood clot, a DVT, in my right lower leg. It had broken off, and I had multiple pulmonary embolisms in my right lung, and they also found nodules in my right lung. And again, I was told if I hadn't shown up, I probably would have been dead within a couple minutes or hours. So once again, I was admitted into the hospital, and I remember a little bit more this time, but it's still a lot of haziness. I feel like there's been a lot of haziness things going on. So they put me on blood thinners. So I get home, I'm on blood thinners, and I'm starting to have some really odd reactions. I start out with a blister rash from my mouth down to my knees. The worst parts were right in here, and it itched really bad. I had hives and this blister thing going on. Then I felt like I had a UTI again. So I went back to the doctor, and I said, I have another UTI. I don't want this to happen again. She went ahead and put me on antibiotics, and then she called me. She said, you don't have a UTI. And I'm like, there's something wrong, because I feel like I have a UTI, and I'm in pain. But there was blood in my urine, and my eyes were both so red that it looked like I could literally start crying blood at any time. I was also having other issues. There was blood coming out of everywhere. When I peed, my girl parts, which is weird because I don't have girl parts left. And I even had blood in my stool. My nose was bleeding. So basically I had blood coming out of everywhere. With all the blood coming out and the rash, I was having trouble breathing. It was basically a severe allergic reaction to the blood thinner. So the easiest thing to do, they wanted to test me for more multiple pulmonary embolisms. They wanted to test me for more blood clots, but that meant that they would have to admit me again. So I tried to get out of the whole getting admitted thing, and he said, I told him, I said, I don't want to be here. I want to go home. I'd rather be at home in the comfort of my own bed than be here. So he said, okay, we'll make that happen. He came back, and I said, you know what? I can't breathe. I can't do this. I can't do that. And he said, well, no matter what happens, the treatment's going to be the same. We're going to have to keep you on blood thinners. We'll just have to get you on a different blood thinner. So even if you have more blood clots, you're still going to be on blood thinner. So let's just try a different blood thinner. And if that doesn't work, you come back. So he put me on another blood thinner. This blood thinner made me very ill. I had a lot of trouble eating. I know you'd think that's a good thing with me, but unfortunately when I can't eat, I gain weight. Steroids, not eating, it just, your body goes into, we're gonna die. So you put on weight. Then 2 weeks later, maybe three this time, my son came to visit me from Pennsylvania, and I remember we went to meet his cousins for brunch, and I had to go out to the van because I was not feeling well, and that's the last thing I remember. I woke up, I want to say 5 days later, and I had been told that I was, again, I had Pseudomonas septic shock, and because I was unresponsive for so long, I was really, really bad. They've said you are very, 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 very sick. And I'm like, well, I'm here, so that's a good thing. Unfortunately, there was some discrepancy with the hospitalist who decided that because I had more than one rare disease, that all my diseases were fake. So he stopped my steroids, which even if I was a healthy person taking steroids, you cannot stop someone's steroids like this because it can kill them. Me being an Addison's patient and stopping steroids like that will kill me. It's not a question of maybe, it's you will die. So, unfortunately, my endocrinologist was out of town and no one could reach him. So, and he's not on what the doctor program says is EPIC. So he could not read the results from this doctor. So they one by one stopped all of my medications. The specialists kept coming in and they kept saying, well, since you have fake diseases, since you have fake illnesses, since you have fake this, and I got yelled at by some of these doctors. What do you want me for? Why am I here? There's nothing wrong with you. You have fake illnesses. This is obviously a fake illness as well. I had to have 4 patient advocates involved. I fired this hospitalist 4 times and nothing was resolved. So basically, I had to leave this hospital before he killed me. He was not giving me my steroids. If he wasn't giving me the right amount because I'm supposed to updose when I'm sick. And since I almost died, I felt like that was kind of a reasonable thing to updose for. So I was giving my own shots too. He was giving me shots, but I don't think it was the full amount. If he was giving me anything in the shots, I'm not sure. He could have just been giving me warfarin for all I know. So I was taking my own shot secretly. Quite frankly, I should not have to secretly take my own medication to keep me from not dying. So I finally got out of there, and one of the side effects of septic shock is short-term memory loss. It's also hair loss. It's a loss of coordination. It's the incredible weakness of the body, legs, arms, so forth and so on. I also have speech problems. I mix words up. I can't remember words. Sometimes I can't even speak words. My mouth doesn't work. It's the most bizarre thing. So now I have to have a speech therapist. And I think that's funny because I was a public speaker before all this, and now I have to have a speech therapist, physical therapist, so forth and so on. So I've been out of the hospital for 36 days today, after being in the hospital for almost an entire year. I am so happy to be here. Now, there's a reason why I told you all of this. I know it's been a lengthy journey to get to this point, but so I wanted to share this during Thanksgiving, but I was still too tired. I was still too weak, and I was still trying to plan for people to come here for Thanksgiving. So I still feel like it's something that needs to be said, and I apologize that you had to listen to my whole journey to get there, but I wanted you to see where I'm coming from on what I'm about to say. With the holidays, it's easy to get caught up in the commercialism of this holiday, as well as the expectations of what we have for ourselves and what we think people have for us. Spending money on people that we care about to prove that we love them. But here's the thing. We get so caught up in all of that we forget about taking care of ourselves. Depression can set in. You've lost a family member. You've lost someone that you care about, and this is the first holiday without them. Or it's been 30 years since you lost them and you still feel it every time this holiday comes around. My father died 3 days before my birthday. I can't celebrate my birthday anymore. I had to change my birthday, the time that I celebrated anyway. So it's hard for me. My next door neighbor died on my birthday, and I really loved him. So the birthday is no longer a thing for me. But here's where I'm trying to get at. Suicide rates are up higher than ever during this season. It's supposed to be the time of giving, and yet we are so angry and fighting in politics, fighting to get that last doll that's all the rage right now. We're fighting to prove to our loved ones that we are worthy of their love by spending a certain amount of money. At the same time, there's many of us that don't even have a home, don't have transportation, don't have a job, or they're so focused on what they don't have. And here's the thing. I used to have that mentality that I had to do something for everybody. I want to do something for everybody. It's just who I am. I've been that way my whole life. Maybe it's my need for approval. I don't know. But I like to gift things to people, even if it's something small, something that I've put together, anything that just lets somebody know, hey, I thought about you for Christmas. Whether you thought about me for Christmas, I don't care. I just want you to know that you were thought of at Christmas by me. Can't spend a lot of money on it, but that's what I like to do. So during Thanksgiving, I had some people who were really struggling with the whole holiday. The lack of, the not having. And for me, Thanksgiving is more friendsgiving, because I love having all my friends come, who don't have places to go. Or if they do have places to go, come here still. Everybody's welcome. We'll make sure there's a place for you to eat. And at this point, I really wanted to sit down and think about what I had been through in this life in this last year. And I don't want to say that I've always been commercial about everything. I mean, you can look around at my home. Everything is Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman. That's my brand. Some people it's Gucci. Some people it's, Aeropostale. For me, it's Wonder Woman, Superman. It's DC Comics. But if I really had to break it down and tell you what it is I'm grateful for. Yes, I love all my collection. I love it very much. But here's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful to be alive. Do you know your brain gets rewired when you come that close to death. First you kind of go through this, why me? Why did this happen to me? Why is this happening to me? I went through this 6 times. 6 times. I didn't even have time to process it before I got deathly ill again for another time. And then again, and then again, and then again, and then again. I never had an opportunity to get past what the hell is happening here? Hey, look, I'm out. Let's go do some stuff. I got stuff to do. I should have been in bed. That's all I could think of is I got stuff to do. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. This is coming. I got to get ready. I got stuff to do. And so I would go and I would go and I would go. And it wouldn't even be 2 weeks later before I was almost dying again. And your brain chemistry changes. My whole life, I've been depressive, suicidal, and broken. I've been bullied. I've had the crap beat out of me. I've been raped more times than I care to share with you right now. I've been abused by doctors, by nurses, by EMTs, anyone I would allow. I allowed that energy in my energy. When my husband killed himself back in 2010, it flipped a switch. Something in my brain just said, holy crap. And I started to view things in my world a completely different way. I'm not saying I didn't get depressed, but I was able to say, okay, I acknowledge that I'm depressed. I granted myself time to acknowledge the depression and to figure out what was causing the depression. And I always gave myself a 3-day window. I would cry, I would scream, I would write in my journal, I would burn the journal, whatever it took to get the emotions out, to let them go, to be felt, to be acknowledged. And then on that 4th day, when I woke up, I'd be like, okay, you've had 3 days. You've had 3 days to go through this. Now it's time to move on. I either hadn't had a reason, I either had a solution during those 3 days or I didn't. But one thing I knew for sure is I had to get up and I had to put another step in front of the other every time. Sometimes it was really hard. Sometimes it was easier, and the more I did it, the easier it got. And it got to the point where my acknowledgement days were a day instead of 3 days. And then this happened to me 6 times. And this last one, I lost a lot of short-term memory. I've lost a lot of mobility, more than I had already lost. I've lost the ability to make words sometimes. So I feel like I'm doing really good right now. I hope I'm not using the wrong words in the wrong places right now. I'll have to rewatch this to make sure. And sometimes I can't even move my mouth to say the words that I need to. I'm actually having a fairly decent day. I went into adrenal crisis earlier, had to dose my steroids, and then it was like the Energizer Bunny had gotten a new lease on life and I was ready to go again. But before that, for 3 hours, I was I was almost comatose because I was in crisis from trying to overdo it and trying to, get better faster than I should. So the first thing that I'm grateful for is my life. And if you're not grateful for your life, wherever you are right now, take a moment to acknowledge that you are perfect just the way you are. In this moment, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Even if it seems like it is the worst hell you could possibly be in, this is not the end. This is not the end of the story. This is the climax. This is where the hero gets the motivation, the right weapon to bring the story to a close, and they live happily ever after. We go through these hills and valleys in our lives so that we can appreciate the better things in life because we've gone through the darkness. So take a moment to remember you are perfect just the way you are, in the place that you are right now. That is the most important thing you can do ever. Take a breath. Breathe. Breathing is so hard sometimes, especially for me. But taking that conscious breath and letting it out slowly and doing it again and doing it again and doing it again will reprogram the endorphins in your brain and help you find that happier place, no matter how terrible you think your life is right now. Everybody's going through something. Nobody's drama is worse than anybody else's. What you are going through can be just as bad as what I've been through. I'm not saying my story is any worse than yours. I'm just saying we're experiencing different stories. The reaction our body has is the same. I'm not saying it's exactly the same as mine, but I'm just saying it's the same level. What you're dealing with can look like it's the biggest mountain you've ever seen. Mine can look like the biggest mountain I've ever seen. Nobody's drama is worse than anybody else's. It's your drama, my drama. So don't think that I've got the answers, because I don't. The next thing that I am grateful for is I'm grateful that I have a home over my head. A ceiling over my head. I have a place to live. I have shelter. At one point in my life, I lived in my car. I lived in my car for a year. I always remembered that I was never worried about having enough, though, even though I was living in my car. I knew somehow that I was always going to have enough to eat. I was always going to have just enough to survive. I never worried about not having enough to eat or where I was going to get my next shower. It just happened. So I've never been in a place where I didn't accept that. I just knew that where I was in my brain, I was going to be fine. Even though I was living in my car, I had nothing, I was okay. I was a little, losing my mind a little bit. I've been through a lot at that point. I really had. And I'm going to share a little story with you, if you don't mind. I know this is getting a long video, but I want you to hear what I have to say. At this time, I've been through some serious crap. I've been attacked by a man at work. And the whole time it was going on, he kept saying he's watching me. He was watching me. He'd follow me from one room in the office to the next, saying, random comments, and then, I'm watching you. I'm watching you. I know you're up to something. I'm watching you. He even followed me into the women's bathroom. This was many years ago. It's like 2000, September 5th, 2000, actually. And this was before, everybody had all the cell phones, the smart stuff. And I went into that bathroom, and I had a little tiny cell phone back then. It was like this big. And I thought it was so cool because it's such a tiny little cell phone. No, I did not have my cell phone. I had nothing. I was in the bathroom with just me. And when he followed me in the bathroom, I said, this is the women's bathroom. You are violating, some law. I don't even know what law it is, but get out. And he left the bathroom and he went back to his desk. And I sat in the bathroom, on the bathroom floor, and cried. And ironically, the emergency exit was next to the bathroom. I went out the emergency exit, went next door to the office next door. I used their phone. I called someone to come and get me and take me home. They took me home, and I asked them then to go to the office and pick up my car, my keys, my purse, my cell phone, everything. And that was the day that I had agoraphobia. I was afraid that he was watching me every step I made. I had a large bay window right in the middle of my house. I was afraid to go in front of it because I was afraid he was watching me from that big bay window. I would have to call somebody on the phone to go from my bedroom to the bathroom because I'd have to go in front of the bay window. I was petrified. I did not leave my house for a year at that point. That's when I was diagnosed with agoraphobia. I had sent my son to go live with his dad because I knew that I was in no condition to care for a child by myself, even though I had been doing it for, many years up to that point. And one day, here's where I'm going to get very transparent, and I'm going to share something very personal with you, and I hope that you hear it for the gift that it is. One day, I decided I was done, and I turned on my car, and I put rugs around the garage door, anywhere there was a crack, and I put a hose in from the muffler thing into the car, and took all the pills I had in the house, and I thought for sure, one way or the other, I was gonna be done. And it was the weirdest thing that happened to me at that time. And I don't share this very often because it might sound like I'm a little cray-cray. So you can take it for however you want. But at this juncture, I was falling asleep, I guess. And I remember that there was a bright white light and warm hands were holding me. And I don't remember who it was. I want to call it an angel. It could have been my higher self. It could have been God. Could have been Jesus. It could have been, I don't know. Anybody. It could have been anybody who was talking to me at this point. All I know is that it was a warm, overwhelmingly bright white light. And the feeling of just complete peace. And I heard these words, not outside of my ears, but I heard it inside my soul, my brain, my inner me. And the words were very distinct. I can't remember what was said before what I'm about to share or after, but I do remember what was said in this part. It said that it's not my time, and I was destined for more, and that I was supposed to help people, and I had greatness inside of me, but I couldn't do it if I was dead. So I woke up the next morning, first of all, surprised that I was alive. Second of all, disappointed that it didn't work. And then it was like all these memories came crashing back, and I realized, that's why I'm still here. So someone had stepped in and intervened. What should have definitely killed me didn't. What it did was it gave me new purpose. But I was still going through a lot of things in my head, and I still had to work through all of them. It took me a very long time to do that. It was a very slow process, I'll tell you that. But I knew that there was more. Somewhere in the back of my head, I always remembered that. And then it was probably 5 years after that. I had already remarried, and then my husband committed suicide. And when my husband committed suicide, it was like this the switch flipped in my brain. And it was like, at first I spent 3 months, again, suicidally depressed. I wanted to be with him. You know, I didn't deserve to live while he was dead. I didn't deserve this, you know, that kind of thing. And I spent 3 months thinking about killing myself with him again. And then one day I was just like, no, this is not what's supposed to happen. I remembered this conversation that I had with God or the angel or whoever it was, that I was meant for more. And all I had been doing for years was just waiting to die. I was sick, always sick. I was depressed. I was unfunctionable. And then all of a sudden, something happened. And I decided I was going to live my best life. I was like, I wonder what it would be like to be a, makeup artist. Next thing I know, I'm doing makeup on people, learning as I go, taking classes, having having a ball. And then, somehow I started doing people's hair and fashion styling too. Next thing I know, I'm in a fashion show. I'm fat. And I'm in a fashion show. Not only was I in the fashion show, I opened to the fashion show. I was in every set. I didn't have time to change my underwear, let alone change my clothes for each set. And it was like everything. I was like, I wonder what it'd be like to do this. And it would just happen. And then I was like, I want to be in a pageant. And then I was in a pageant and I won. And it was like everything was just, it was like I was doing what my soul was supposed to be doing. At the time, my platform was agoraphobia. It was, it was something I knew. And I understood it. And I wanted to help people who had agoraphobia. And then in 2015, I remarried in 2013. And then 2015 happened. And then during that time, from December, my best friend died. My father died. My father-in-law died. My house flooded twice. Lost 90% of my collection. I had 14 more deaths that year. I wrote 4 eulogies myself. It seemed like every time I turned around, somebody was dying. It was a very difficult year. And then the year next after that got more difficult, physically, mentally, spiritually. And then the next year after that, it got even worse. And then this year, I was in the hospital more times than I've been at home. I was near death for a year because I was in adrenal crisis for a year and no one recognized what was happening to me because it was atypical symptoms. And then somebody figured it out. I mean, can you imagine all the things that had to coalesce at the same time for someone to finally say, oh, I know what's wrong with you. You're dying because you have adrenal failure. Oh, okay. And to find that right person who said, we're going to take care of you. We're going to do this. And then subsequently have 5 more times when I'm almost dying. So I don't take this life lightly. I don't take my story lightly because this is soul-wrenching secrets that I've held on to my whole life. And I'm sharing them with you. Because the next thing I'm grateful for is my family. I have been so ill, like I said, I haven't been able to dress myself, bathe myself, drive myself, cook for myself, clean for myself, dress for myself, and sometimes I can't even eat for myself. Somebody has to feed me. It has been a very hard year, physically, mentally, spiritually, but I'm still here. I'm still here. Why? Why am I still here? Is it to tell you my story? Is it to hope that something that's happening in my life can help someone like you in your life? So I'm grateful for my family. My family, I'm lucky that when my dad died, I told my mom that we were going to build an apartment in her basement because I was going to take care of her when Dad died. Ironically, it turned the tables and she's been taking care of me. So I'm lucky that my 70-year-old mom is capable of taking care of me. I'm lucky to have an amazing man in my life who has supported me in every one of my endeavors. And since I've been sick, he has slept in the hospital rooms with me. My mom has slept in the hospital rooms with me. They have given me shots and made sure I had food, helped me get dressed, helped me bathe, making sure I have taken my 175 bajillion trillion medications. How many people can say that they have somebody who loves them enough to take that on? I feel like I'm a horrible burden, but at the same time, I am so blessed to have my mom and my husband. The next thing I'm grateful for are my friends. Being shut in like I have been because of health is ironic, since I worked so hard to get over agoraphobia, to leave my house. And now it's hard for me to leave my house because of physical illness. So I look forward to my doctor's appointments because that means I'm leaving the house. But I have to have somebody dress me, bathe me, help me get my food in, give me my shots, and feed before we can take my chair up the steps, get in a van, lie down so somebody can take me to the doctors. Then I visit with the doctors. They're my best friends, all of them. But I have my family and my friends that have come to visit me, who have talked with me. Some of them have gone through similar health crisis. Some of them have had cancer. And ironically, the people who have had cancer have been some of the people that I have leaned on the most because I feel like they get it. They've been in that I'm going to die stage. What if I don't make it? I need my end of life stuff taken care of. And the fear of it. And then you're all clear. No more cancer. And the feeling like, okay, I survived for a reason. What is it? What's next? And then you feel like powerful because you have defeated this great and mighty death. And I've done it 6 times in 6 months. So I'm in this holy crap place. And then I'm grateful for you, the people who listen to my story, who interact with me, who give me, you guys are my life. The people who say, I listen to your story and this is what I'm going through. And because of you, I'm able to do this. Because of you and your story, I can do that. And then the people who say, how did you get through this? Because I'm going through it. How can I get through this? Because your story is similar to mine. I love that. That gives me breath because that means that I am here for a reason and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be helping people. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you so much on so many levels. I am grateful for everything that's around me. The trees, the snow, my animals, my cat, Nurse Artemis. I guess what I'm trying to get at with all of this is, are you looking at what you don't have for the holidays and focusing on the loss of or the don't haves, looking at what other people have versus what you have and feeling like you're less than because of that? Are you worried about spending $187 on those new pair of Nikes for your niece that's twice removed so that you'll be the favorite auntie? Are you looking at spending, $500 on that new PlayStation 5 or whatever that's coming out for your son or your grandkids, and trying to figure out how you're going to pay the bills for the next 3 months because you have to pay for this $500 toy that's going to get upgraded in 2 years? Or, the $1,500 newest iPhone. We're so focused on the commercialism of it that we're forgetting the reason for it. So here's my advice. I'll tell you what people want. They want your presence. Not your gifts, your presence. I cannot tell you how many days I have sat here by myself, dying for someone to come over and visit me, for a phone call, for a text message, for a private message on Facebook, a response on one of my posts, to know that somebody's thinking about me. So for those people that you don't know what to give them, your mom, your dad, your grandma, the lady down the street who never has any visitors, the people who are in the hospital, the people who are dying, the people who are very sick, we don't want you to bring us presents. We want you to come and visit us. Having someone come to visit us is life for us. So focus on the people who need you, the people that, I know it's hard when someone's in the hospital. I know some people have a really hard time going into the hospital when someone's sick, or to come to their house when they're sick, because you don't know what to say. You don't know what to do. I will tell you, the people who have come over and visited with me, I don't care what they talk about. I'll listen to them talk about all the bad things that's going on in their life because they're talking to me. I'm saddened by the amount of people that I thought were, that I was really good friends with. And I haven't heard from many of them for over a year. It's hard. It hurts my feelings. They haven't even responded on my posts. They haven't sent me private messages. They haven't called me. They haven't texted me. And I'm like, I thought we were, and I've learned who my friends are. I've definitely learned who my friends are. The people who definitely care. And a lot of those people that care are the ones who've gone through something similar. I have found new friends, people who are in my support groups. Some of them I've never even met, but they're some of the people that I'm the closest to. So those people, give them the gift of your time. Call them. Send a card saying, hey, I was thinking about you. Send a text message, I was thinking about you. We don't need the gifts. We need the time. We need your time. Just to let us know that you think about us, that you love us, that you still care. No matter how hard it is for you, believe me, what they're going through is harder than what you're going to go through. I promise you that. For the kids, it's a whole nother ball game. I'm not even going to go there. But just remember, just because you give them the latest, greatest, most expensive gift that they can get this year, it's going to be the same thing next year. You're going to have to start all over. So learning, teaching them to help other people is probably going to be a better value gift than giving them the greatest gift, most expensive gift. Teaching them to spend time with people who need them is going to be a better gift. I promise you that. So, if you are in a place right now where you feel less than, that you're being attacked by the holidays, that you are overwhelmed with these holidays, I truly hope that some of the things that I have said here have given you a new perspective to look at. It's not about what you don't have, it's about what you do have. It's what you can do, not what you can't do. I believe that there's also a new number for the suicide hotline. I believe it's 288. Don't quote me on that. I'll try to find it and post it here before, after I get this loaded up. But just know that somebody out there loves you. whether you believe it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not. Remember those that have passed with fondness, because that's what they would want for you. They would want you to be happy, not sitting here devastated that they're not here. And trust me, I know that's harder to do than it is to say. I go through it myself. I miss my dad every Christmas. We don't do much for Christmas anymore because Dad's not here. We buy for the niece, and that's pretty much it. That's the only person who we buy for. Yay! And then Sean's grandkids and stuff. So it's about the kids. It's not about the adults at this point. It's the commercialism of it. If you need somebody to talk to, hit me up on DM, send me a message. I don't have all the answers. I am not a trained therapist. I'm not a trained psychologist. If you get to the point where I'm not able to assist you, I will redirect you to someone who could. Maybe you just need somebody to talk to. Maybe you need a friend. If I'm not that person, then find someone. Reach out to someone. I need a drink. So, I know I've taken up a huge amount of time on this video, and I do apologize for taking up so much time. Someday I'm going to learn how to edit these videos so that they can be in shorter groupings. But just know that look for things to be grateful for. Acknowledge that you are perfect just where you are, when you are, how you are. Acknowledge that. Give the gift of your time to those who need it, whether you're ready to do it or not. It's going to mean more to them than anything else. Forgive yourself. Forgive those who you think have hurt you or are not good enough for you. Doesn't mean you have to keep them in your life, but once you forgive them, it's going to be easier for you to move on and move forward. And even those people who have passed away that you might be angry with for leaving you, forgiving them for leaving you is going to give you more peace than anything. And that's what you need, okay? So I love you. I hope you have a wonderful and happy holidays. And I think that's it. I think that's enough. Thank you for sticking around and watching this with me and being involved in the conversations. Unfortunately, your posts and comments are all sideways, so I can't read any of them. Oh, Sarah, thank you. I would love for you to come through the phone and give me a hug. You can do it anyway. Thank you again for everybody who joined in. You're amazing and you're articulating perfectly. Thank you, Felicia. I appreciate that. I love you guys, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday. You are perfect just the way you are, where you are, when you are. Love you. Long time. Stay fabulous.